Know thyself is a famous inscription found on an ancient temple in Greece, often attributed to Socrates. But what does it mean to know yourself? We hear people vaguely talk about wanting to discover themselves, but what does this actually mean? Well, firstly, to know yourself, you need to know a little bit about other people, because in many ways you are the same as others. I don't mean to say you're not unique, but because you're human, then you share basic human attributes. Once you understand more about what these attributes are, you'll instantly understand yourself better. Knowing yourself isn't about loving yourself and congratulating yourself, or constantly criticizing and berating yourself. To really begin to know yourself, you need to be calm and objective. Also, the phrase knowing yourself implies that you're one unified being. But if you observe yourself, you are in fact many things. You have a social self, a work self. Sometimes you're angry, perhaps, and sometimes happy. We all contain within us many parts. When we begin to understand the workings of these parts, then we can begin to have a sense of who we are. So knowing yourself isn't some vague quest. It involves seeing yourself objectively, being honest with yourself about yourself, and not using justifications or rationalizations, but recognizing your own motivations for what they really are. To understand yourself, you need to see yourself clearly, which means putting aside self-flattery or the need to put yourself in the best possible light. To be objective, you need to be calm and relaxed. We call this using the observing self. The observing self is the part of you that's outside of emotion or intellect. When we're angry, we can observe ourselves being angry, so we are not the anger. The observing self is the most detached point of personal observation. Using the observing self isn't about being cold and detached, because we can even observe ourselves being cold and detached. Once we can use the observing self more, we become more effective and less swayed by the automatic diktats of random emotion. Much of our behaviour is a result of instinctive learnings, and some of these instinctive learnings are inappropriate. For example, you may have had the experience of being introduced to someone who reminds you of someone you knew years ago, perhaps the way they look or the way they sound, and then emotionally responding to this complete stranger as if they were the person from your past. This is a process called pattern matching. Pattern matches produce instinctive or emotional responses in you automatically. To clearly begin to see what causes pattern matches in yourself, what things you've become automatically anchored to, is to really start to become self-aware, to really gain self-knowledge. Some people have difficulty committing to a relationship, even if they get on really well with the person they're seeing. They have a pattern match which emotionally connects commitment and long-term relationships with danger and being trapped. They may feel uneasy and swiftly exit the relationship, and then try to rationalize their behavior by suggesting the person just wasn't right for them. This is called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is basically when we self-deceive. If someone does something which is at odds with what they believe to be true about themselves, they will often, if they're not being honest with themselves, justify and rationalize why they behaved in such a way so as to protect their self-image. So if I steal food from a friend, if I was being self-deceptive, I might try to flatter myself by saying I'd done them a favour because they eat too much anyway. Maybe there's a particular person you always feel irritated by whenever you see them in the street or the office. If that irritation isn't because of something they're doing at that moment, then it's become an automatic pattern match, and it may be one that's simply not rational anymore. It's not that that person is making you feel bad. It's just that you're habitually generating bad feelings as an automatic response when you see them. Understanding about how the brain works and how pattern matching influences our behaviour means you can do less rationalizing and know yourself more completely. You can begin to respond to the people and situations in life as they actually are, rather than as pattern matches to events in your past. This will allow you to live your life less on autopilot and to participate fully and consciously in the here and now.